Connor, we were spoiled. We had some 70s and 80-degree days last week, and then we got hit with a week full of overcast and rain. But I'm sure you and Jim would agree we probably need some of the rain. Need to get those trees moisturized and all those grasses greener.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want to start my irrigation just up yet because I think we're going to have one more freeze out there. So it was nice to actually see some water come in. And now that gives me another week or two before I got to actually turn on irrigation systems. So it always makes my life a little bit easier.
yeah, it was nice. It was just kind of a nice, consistent little rain there for a couple days. But this is live in Fort Collins. We come to you every week, Monday at noon, 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And we talk to you guys about things that have happened over the last week, things that are happening, things to do. We also break down city council. And this week they had a marathon session, just over 3 hours. And it was a work session. It's one thing when you have a 3-hour city council meeting because you have public comment that could go for an hour. But when it's a work session that's 3 hours plus, it's dense.
Yep.
And like super dense. So today, the things that they talked, or I should say this last Tuesday, the things that they talked about was a bike park feasibility, which we'll discuss, affordable housing in Fort Collins and how we're addressing that. And then as well as how are we, addressing the ADU law in the state of Colorado, coming in compliance, making sure we have all the funds, access to those funds. But if you're watching this live, feel free to comment, engage, interact, ask questions, because that's the beauty of being live is that you can ask a question, we can answer in real time. If we don't know, we'll tell you, we'll get back to you. But if you're watching this on a rerun, feel free to comment and we'll get back to you. But one of the big things, we've got a lot of big projects coming in Northern Colorado, Connor. And, one of those is that should be taking shape, and coming on live sooner than later is Chimney Hollow in Loveland. Yep. I know that's kind of out your back door, but talk to me a little bit about where is that in comparison to like Carter Lake and Loveland overall.
Yeah, so in terms of just like if you're thinking about downtown Loveland and stuff, you're going to be heading west up onto Highway 34. You're going to take that up about 3-4 miles, and they're going to hook a left heading south toward like you're heading over to the Berthoud area. And about another 3 to 5 miles down the road there, you're going to hook yourself way back up and head back west up into the foothills. And so Carter Lake is one of our big lakes that are up in the Loveland area and is a really good recreational lake that has sailboats, power boats, great fishing up there as well. And there's also a couple other really good reservoirs up there as well. Carter Lake's a little more busier than I like, so I always tend to go a little bit further west up the hill towards Pinewood Reservoir. Nice, quiet little lake. You can go up and do some really great paddleboarding up there. And just below Pinewood Reservoir and just a little to the south of that is where they're creating the Chimney Hollow Recreational Park and new reservoir up there. So that, when it comes to wanting to go out and do camping or getting outdoors, and you don't want to maybe head over to Horsetooth Reservoir in Fort Collins, this is a really good secondary place to go check out. It's a little more peaceful. It feels like you're a little more up in the mountains versus kind of where Horsetooth Reservoir still kind of feels like a deserty kind of atmosphere because there's not as many trees. So you're going to have more pine trees up there. But Chimney Hollow, I've been watching that being built, for the last 3-4 years now as we go up and hike up in that reservoir area and go camping up there, and just been super excited to see them. And it sounds like they might be getting it fully completed by that 2027 mark. I think they should start maybe being able to get things filled in, starting to get things going this year and in the next year or two on that side. So super excited about that, but super close place to just go out and do a quick day hike, go out and do a quick camping trip on a weekend versus having to go out an hour and a half up to the mountains, up the Cooter Canyon, or up into Estes Park. It's a nice close place to just be able to jump out and enjoy the outdoors, which all of us out here really enjoy.
From downtown Loveland, how far of a drive do you think it is? How many minutes?
Downtown Loveland, I'd be putting it at about a 35-minute drive would be my guess.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
The slowest. It's not terrible on that side. It's relatively steep going up that direction. So getting to Carter Lake is a lot easier. And then if you keep going to the west on the same road, it's just a steep, windy road up there. So you got to be doing 20 miles an hour on that side as you go up the hill. So that's the time that takes longest. But I'll tell you, it's probably one of the most beautiful drives you'll see in the Loveland area, except for going up to Estes or up the Pooter Canyon. Because more than likely, especially depending on the year and stuff. That's where a lot of the elk end up gathering, is in that area. So great place to go see wildlife. Bald eagles are up there all the time. And so for a 35-minute to 45-minute drive, if you're a little bit slower on that side, it's a heck of a deal to be able to just go up there pretty quickly.
Gotcha. Your internet's, whether it's my internet, your internet, we're a little choppy right now, but hopefully it kind of buffers out here sooner than later. Some statistics for Chimney Hollow it's going to be about an 1,800 acre open area, planning to open in 2027, but they're going to start filling it this July, possibly, once the dam is completed. It's going to be a 90,000 acre foot lake serving 12 irrigation and ditches and municipalities. There's going to be 10 to 12 miles of hiking trails throughout there, and non-motorized. I would say that's probably a big one, is non-motorized. That really the only ones motorized are going to be Carter Lake, Horseshoe Reservoir, and then in the next decade to 20 years, whatever it takes, Glade Reservoir.
Yeah, and we got Boyd Lake as well, which is a recreational one too. So you at least have that on the east side.
Well, and Lake Loveland too is motorized, except it's private. So
yeah, all private. They took away our swim beach and stuff, unfortunately. So now it's just privatized.
Yeah, let's see here. We got a comment. I'm Nigerian, hoping to move from Nigeria to Fort Collins later this year for my PhD in chemistry at Colorado State University.
Okay.
Just waiting for a signal from the school. Good luck. Let's see here. Ephraim, I would assume, is the name. Maybe I pronounced it right, but give me some phonetic help there if I'm wrong. But good luck to you, and wish you all the best. Speaking of which, hopefully you come across some friendly people in Colorado. I joke about it a little bit, but there was just an article that was released that from World Population Review that had the friendliest people in the United States. In Colorado, what do you think it ranked, Connor? If you don't know. Then
no, I was gonna say I don't know that, but I gotta say it's at least in the top 10. So I'd probably put it like 6 or something like that.
Ooh, not bad. Number 7.
Okay.
And but what's interesting on this one is we also rank number 24 on the list of rudest states and like a lot of people.
That's just because of I-25, I bet.
Yeah, it's from traffic, things of that nature, but. Let's see here. The top 10. Number 1 is Minnesota. Number 2, Tennessee. 3, South Carolina. 4 is Texas. 5, Wyoming. Indiana, Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, Hawaii. One place that's not on that list that we did get, I've been referencing it at least a handful of times over the last 2-3 months, is the comment that I received from a guy in Wisconsin saying the people aren't as nice in Colorado as they are in Wisconsin. Well, Wisconsin's not on this list. So, I don't know. But really, one thing that's happening in Fort Collins, and I'm actually really interested because I read through this article, is Respite Care is opening up its new facility at Ladera. Ladera is this it's potentially going to be up to 2 million square feet of commercial space off of I-25 and Harmony Road, and it's going to the Respite Care is going to open up a new facility there. It's going to be about a 21,000 square foot facility, and it's going to increase its capacity from 65 children overnight, I believe so, to 175 children. So, tripling its capacity, which is pretty cool. I have volunteered only a couple times at Respite Care when I was in high school, but coincidentally, that facility is literally, I can throw a baseball and hit that facility probably, and I can't even throw that far. So that just tells you how close it is to my house. It does say they're going to be selling that building. So I'm like, ooh, who's going to go there? It's a super unique, somebody asked me the other day, we were doing a city tour through Fort Collins. I said, oh, so your house must be really close to like grocery and restaurants and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, it's not far, but I definitely got to get in my car to go to those. I guess I could ride my bike to go to a restaurant, all that kind of stuff. But this is really the only commercial. This and Mackenzie's place at Southridge Golf Course are the only commercial deals within like a few blocks of me. So super interesting to know what's going to go there, because that would be interesting. I'm guessing it's going to be some type of office space or.
That's what I was going to say. That's what it's kind of really meant for on that side, unless they really convert it. Yeah,
dental office, something like that.
Yeah.
But that's exciting for Respite Care. Has one of the biggest balls in Fort Collins. It has the Respite Care ball on an annual basis, raises tons of money. It's a really cool. Basically, what they do is they are. I think it's like I don't know if it's free. I'm not sure if it's free, but essentially they help families with children who have high needs for one reason or another. And these facilities are, provide food, games, activities, watching, like I said, overnight. It's a really pretty cool operation in Fort Collins. So if you're looking at doing any type of volunteer work, they're always looking for good volunteers. So, go check out Respite Care, which used to be in Fort Collins and will now be in Timnath, and a pretty sizable facility. So that's pretty exciting. Have you ever thought about running for city council or mayor or anything along those lines, Connor?
No, I don't think I have the heart for that on that side. That's a heck of a job to take on and to be a part of on that side. Maybe once I get to those retirement age and years and stuff, I could maybe see myself being more participation on that. But I kind of like being in the smaller community groups and being able to focus my attention on the places I think that need the needs. And I think being part of the city council or being a mayor of a city, it's too broad spectrum for me to be able to want to put that on my shoulders and think I'm going to be doing a good job on that side. So I leave that to the experts on that end of the field.
My uncle was the mayor of Timnath for a while, and it was interesting because I forgot that he lived in Timnath. And I asked, we found out as a family that he was running for mayor, and I was like, and this was when Wade Troxel was the mayor in Fort Collins. I was like, oh no. I was like, I kind of like Wade. I don't mind him. And now I have my uncle, but then I realized he was running for mayor in Timnath, which is obviously a different deal. But we were all kind of curious, the same thing. Like, he was retirement age. He just got done with running a CPA firm for 40 years. So definitely a lot of work, a lot of handshaking, a lot of campaigning. And the reason I say that is because Jenny Arndt, who has the ability to run for a third term, is choosing not to run for a third term. And we've had Jenny on our podcast a couple of times, and I've really grown to like her. Not that I didn't like her before, but I've got a ton of respect for her. She's got a great head on her shoulders, very kind, caring person. So sad to see her go, because I think she was great at what she was doing. No specific reason that she's not rerunning. But there's also a couple other seats that are available or up for re-election. Let me tell you real quick. Districts 1, 3, and 5. And I'll show you real quick. Actually, I'll just show. I forgot to stop screen share. I'll present. If you're curious about Fort Collins City Council districts, I will show you what they are. Okay, here we go. So essentially, it's Fort Collins proper. It's got to load a little bit. Sorry about that. Fort Collins proper does not include our growth management area. So like if you're at the country club up here, where is the country club? Where'd it go? Long Pond.
Yep.
If you're at the country club, you're in the county and not in the city. So you actually can't vote for City of Fort Collins City Council. You're in our growth management area, but essentially the districts go in clockwise. District 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then of course the mayor, you can vote for the mayor in all districts. And districts 1, 3, and 5 are up for re-election. Yep. So if you are in any of those areas, this November 4th, you will have an opportunity to make your vote count. And so, and like I said, it's there's no current person who submitted their name for mayor, but and we'll get to this here and like things to do, but might as well just hit it now. Is this Tuesday, April 2nd from 6 to 7:30, the city there will be a candidate information center located in the council chambers at City Hall, 300 LaPorte Avenue. This session is so basically this Tuesday. If you're interested, go get some information. So Connor, I guess I won't see you there. I'm not.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I got that love and lifestyle over here, so I don't have to worry about Fort Collins as much.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Let's go full screen. There we go. Okay, Jenny Arndt. Okay, let's jump into our city council work session. So I'm going to bring up our the first part, there was 3 parts of our city council work session. There was a bike feasibility study, which is, they are saying that it's not a part of, the Hughes Civic Assembly, but it just coincidentally is going in tandem with that. And that's obviously a big opportunity there. It's the Hughes Stadium, 164 acres, can use for parks, recreation, open area, natural spaces. So like it's kind of open-ended. And so they're trying to get this feasibility study done prior to, going forward with, where it could be in Fort Collins. And it sounds like Councilmember Kelly Olson said, like, he's pretty confident whether it's at Hughes or somewhere else, we're going to have a bike park in Fort Collins, which I thought that was kind of interesting. They looked at some of these comparable bike parks. So from what they're kind of implying, the bike park we're going to see in Fort Collins is going to be anywhere between 6 acres to 40 acres, depending on the amenities that they bring in. And it's a little slow here, so I'm going to get rolling down to slide 14 real fast. Actually, that's not too bad. So here's all the different like amenities that they would like to see on or you could see on like a 40-acre park: dirt jumps, gravity slope jumps, pump tracks, which I guess that's kind of like the asphalt deal. You probably know more than I would.
Yep.
But
no, I was going to say those pump tracks have become really popular. I mean, Berthoud has put a really amazing one in there, and I've been to quite a few other ones, whether it be in Montana, been to some in Arizona. Anytime I am able to bring my bike along, I tend to always try and find at least a bike park and stuff. And I know Fort Collins, I mean, right now we have 5 different bike parks, but they're only, a quarter acre. I think the largest one is 3/4 of an acre on that side. We have pump tracks here. We have BMX tracks here all along the park side, but most of them are going to be on that northeast side. And then there's one at Twin Silos Park, which is the BMX track. And then we have only one that is on the west side, which is at Spring Canyon Park. So I know that Hughes Stadium deal and stuff. I know we talked about this before on the live and saying, hey, there is a group out there that is advocating for a bike park on that west side. It would be absolutely amazing if they could get that, because I still feel like that area could use an extra bike park, especially with 40 acres right up against the foothills and stuff. They could do some pretty cool things on that back side of that Hughes Stadium acreage that could be something that a lot of people here really are looking for. And when looking at the statistics and like what people are looking for in bike pass, a lot of individuals are looking for more of that mountain bike trails and mountain bike systems that they want to put in. And so having that by Hughes Stadium and having it hook into maybe some of the other mountain bike trails that go up towards Horsetooth Reservoir could be a pretty sweet gig.
Yeah, they want to, make sure that the conversations that they were happening was essentially like, okay, this should be for the city of Fort Collins, but do we want to make it a regional bike park to where we could have events here, potentially generate some income? And I think council was kind of split 50-50 on that, as far as like, well, no, because a lot of these, events, unless they're, worldwide, or not worldwide, but like statewide or, countrywide or whatever, cost money. So they weren't super thrilled on that. But yeah, to your point, they want to be able to have people ride the Spring Creek or, Fossil Creek Trail or Power Trail, Pooter Trail to get to one of these, opportunities for people to ride. So on top of that, they're saying, if we did this, it's not going to just be like a bike park. They want to have restrooms, parking, a pavilion, shade. It was a big deal, a shade structure. So like spectator areas. So it would be kind of like a full like facility, It wouldn't just be this one-off. Because I think like what you're talking about, Connor, is, and I'll show you here in a second. Here are the areas real quick. Actually, I'm going to jump to this real fast because I want to show it to you. Here's what you were talking about. Here's our 5 current parks. We got this one over here at Twin Silos, which is actually 2 acre. It's actually a pretty decent BMX course.
Yeah, I've ridden it before. It's a great course on that side. It's more tailored to the professional side of it and on that side. So having a little less professional side and having something more like the Berthoud one where it's, hey, come out and you can enjoy 10 different features that they have here is pretty cool.
Yeah, they said that. They said a lot of these courses are either an intro level course or an expert level course. And there's not a lot of kind of middle of the road type deals. So having a facility that kind of accommodates all of those are a push. But, on the Northeast side, they got a couple. I've seen this little thing over at, I don't know if this is, this 0.7 acre deal at Spring Canyon. It's tiny,
Yep.
So these are all very much small deals. But here's where they're considering. Now, they said they couldn't release actual locations because there's some private landowners that they're talking about of saying, hey, we'll buy your property and put on a BMX track. So here's Hughes, obviously, over here. But they're considering 4 locations here and 5 locations here. And they're trying to get this done in time to talk to the Civic Assembly about what their analysis is. So the reason why we're doing a bike feasibility study, we've done, the pickleball feasibility study. I wonder if that's on here. I didn't look, but no.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I saw it on there.
The reason they're doing a bike feasibility study is because in 2021, they basically had a survey and said, what would you like to see in our parks and recreation? And between mountain bike courses and bike parks, so if you actually add those two together, it becomes one of the more sought out, recreational activities. So that's why it's getting put to the top of the list. Let's see here. Here's the kind of the timeline. They kind of want to have a final report done by May 25th, and that's so that we can have this feasibility study in front of the Civic Assembly. And then finally, 31.
Yeah, no, I always wish they'd throw in there to have a chairlift that takes you up to the top of Horsetooth, where some of the mountain bike trails are at. That'd be so much cheaper. Charge $10 for an all-day lift ticket.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh man, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Here's the proposed bike park, so they've got it's a pretty big facility with parking, shade structures, different courses that are bigger, smaller. So could be a cool thing to Fort Collins. I personally, don't know if I've ever been on a BMX park thing. Our team retreat down Breckenridge was probably the first time I've been on a mountain bike in freaking ages. And we all know how that ended. So, but that's exciting for Fort Collins,
Yep.
Really, it'll be something kind of cool. All right, jumping into our next part. Now, this was the brunt of their conversation was affordable housing. We're not going to go nearly as deep as they went, but Fort Collins, it's always kind of listed as one of those top places to live, best place to live, best place to retire. But one of the biggest crux that people come across that lowers our ranking is our cost of living, our housing affordability. And now what we're talking about is a little bit of what they call little A and big A affordable units. So big A would be deed restricted affordable housing. Little A is kind of by happen chance, rental subsidies, things of that nature that are all of your other buckets for affordability. But between the two of them, it gets to our affordable units. Prop 123. Have you heard of Prop 123, Connor?
I have on that side. I've watched it for a little bit on that end and just trying to keep track of kind of the affordable housing and what they're trying to do, like you said, between giving developers incentives to want to build affordable housing to helping out tenants and landlords and doing all that. So I've watched this pretty closely because it is a big issue up in Fort Collins, and the cost of homes are continually going up on that side. And so I know this is a major factor for individuals because we need places for people to live. We don't want to be like Boulder where we send everybody over to Loveland to live that can't afford to live in Fort Collins, but they work in Fort Collins. So I think they're trying to keep that balance there.
Yeah, because they have climate goals, this transit, all that kind of stuff. How many people are traveling into the community on a daily basis to work versus how many live here. So this blue line is the Prop 123 goal. So I believe we have to eventually somehow get to this blue line to get their subsidies and funding and financing. So we're falling quite a bit short of that. Now, there are different calculations. Like, do we add the number of affordable units plus the number of affordable units preserved? So there's different ways that they're looking at this of like, they're trying to figure out this Prop 123 and making sure that we're in alliance with that so that we have access to those funds. But yeah, that's a little bit tough, but we'll keep rocking. 60 to 61. All right, here we go. Here's some of the analysis in Fort Collins specifically for affordable housing. So they always talk about AMI, area median income, and where are rents sitting on that? Well, our area median income, I think for a family of 3 was $83,000. So they look at, what is 30 to 80% of your AMI? What that would be is $900 to $2,000. Our average rent price in Fort Collins is $2,000. Yep. Median, if we had 80 to 120%, that's where you start to like really be able to afford here if you're at 80 to 120% of area median income. So it's definitely a place where you need to be making a good living for sure. Here is our housing units. So like as far as affordability, one of the things that they talk about, and this is different, but one of the things that they talk about is having 30% of your take-home pay, no more than 30% of your take-home pay going towards your housing costs. Yep. But that's kind of separate. We can talk about that here shortly. The gray line is essentially our cumulative demand and need. And this just talks to you about like units in each area of our area median income. So, there's a pretty significant portion of our housing stock, 80 to 100% of AMI, and only, a fraction of it less than that. So,
yep.
63 through 64. Oh, I thought this was super interesting. Here's the cost to develop one unit in the state of Colorado, not Fort Collins, state of Colorado, since 2020. I mean, look, it's gone up 40%. Since 2020.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention too on that side. In 2020 to 2021, the cost for building an affordable unit was $350,000, and what they projected is if they were to build that same type of unit today, it would be roughly about $500,000 per unit. So it's a pretty significant increase on that. And how are they going to control that?
Well, and that's like, and to the city council's credit, and I'm appreciative of them. I think a lot of them have good heads on their shoulders. They said it is tough to develop in Fort Collins and Northern Colorado, specifically Fort Collins, because it takes 3 years to get through that timeline. So could you imagine, like you do a pro forma, right? Okay, high level on how I do some pro formas for investment properties for myself is I increase my rents, annually by about 4 to 5% on my pro forma. My expenses, I increase by 3 to 4% annually. And that way it can kind of give me like a futuristic look at what these properties might look like and do. Like in no world would I have increased 40% over 3 years. So that development starts to be either A, you've got to increase prices like crazy, which is what they've done, or B, like you're potentially losing money on that deal.
No, and that makes sense on that side. I mean, I know that's just a major factor. Like you said, the 3-year time frame to do that. I know that's one thing that they're focusing on is getting reviews down to like 90 days so that they can get in front of individuals and bring that time frame down. There's a bunch of other factors that obviously go into it. Our soils are a big issue. Water is a big issue. Trying to build something in here takes a little bit more engineering than some other areas in Colorado are. So the cost just continually goes up, and hopefully we can kind of figure that out with subsidies or trying to figure out how to make things a little cheaper, deregulate things like that to try and make it a little more feasible for developers and builders to actually bring these types of homes into this area.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of pressures, right? And like Kelly Olson's one of the proponents of like, listen, I'm all about saving as much fees as possible for this unit to be built. It needs to be fair, so we're not losing money, but the end result for a market rate unit is going to be sold at market. Even if you're saving $10,000 on that unit, If you can sell that unit for $450,000 and it cost $400,000 before, and then after you remove the fee of $10,000, you could sell it for $450,000, but it only cost you $390,000.
Yep.
I would love to think that there's goodwill in people that they're going to drop that to $440,000, but in our experience, in the world that we live in, if they can sell it for $450,000, they're going to sell it for $450,000.
That is correct. Yep.
So he's a pretty big proponent of like, we've definitely got, we're not going to ignore it, but it's just hard to, decrease our fees en route to that. So I think it's all encompassing. So here are a lot of things that they're looking at doing: ordinances, policies, codes. How can they get different investments, partnerships, housing catalysts, developers, landlords, land trusts, nonprofits, and the community. They want to streamline the development review and update the land use code. So like ADUs and things of that nature, smaller footprints of homes. The support development, including in an urban renewal authority, metro districts, and land banks. Do you know what a land bank is, Connor?
Actually, I did not. When I was reading through this review today, I did not get enough time to actually look that up and make sure I understood that.
So essentially, a land bank is property owned by the city of Fort Collins, and that is essentially for future development of affordable housing. So they will buy property in years in advance. Like there's a property off of Kector that they've owned for at least a decade, probably longer, that will ultimately be an affordable housing development. So they kind of forward thinking. And what was interesting is it's kind of it's a cool program. But what's interesting was one of the council members goes, "Our land bank's good." And so it was kind of a pause when I was listening to it, like, oh, I would assume they were great. But she goes, well, that money's tied up in that land where maybe we could be using it to offset fees or help, subsidize or whatever. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Land is not cheap in Fort Collins. So you're talking millions of dollars kind of sitting there versus being in action. And $1 today is worth a whole lot more than $1 tomorrow. So, I thought that was interesting. But essentially, it's a program in Fort Collins where City of Fort Collins owns land for future development to help the developer, because they will team with like the Housing Catalyst. They'll team with, there's an affordable housing project, Hearthside Hill, I think is what it's called, right by my house.
Yep.
And the church donated the land. I think Housing Catalyst is the developer, and the city's helping with different things. So a lot of these programs just take so much cooperation to build these projects, but reduce or offset development costs and fees, implement rental housing program and support mobile home property, manufactured home property residents. Factors outside of the city control, limiting financial resources, low income housing tax credit. There was a program at 140 Oak Street that used, I think it was like 45% of its development costs came from low income housing tax credit.
Wow.
And apparently that's kind of like not going away, but going to be substantially reduced. Cost of labor, materials, and land, again, up 40% over the last 3 years. Hard to do that. Limited land and the cost of water. Cost of water actually it actually decreased crazy enough over this last year, from 64 or 66 to $63,000 per tap. And one tap could serve 4 single family units, is my understanding. And then market forces and demand for housing. If people are moving to Northern Colorado, Loveland, Timnath, Wellington, Fort Collins, whatever, that's kind of outside of our control. So those are just some things to consider. Here's some of what they're trying to output: increase supply, diverse housing types and costs, duplexes, triplexes, ADUs, affordable housing, multifamily, all that good stuff. Increase proportion of affordable deed restricted units. This is an interesting one. I think I've talked with you a little bit about this, Connor. And anyone who's watching who might be an expert, because we do have some affordable housing experts. Actually, one of my clients came from and is an architect, and specifically she does lots of different projects, but specifically around affordable housing. And she's partnered with the DDA and the Housing Catalyst, and she is a rock star. So I am curious if she is listening, or anyone else who might be listening that is an expert. One comment I stumbled across, so I didn't look at its resource, didn't really care, per se, but I thought the theology behind it was interesting. That big A, affordable, deed-restricted housing actually is a huge hindrance on people being able to increase their lifestyle. Or get out of the maybe, or increase their wealth, whatever. Let me get to what I'm saying. If you are restricted to 80% of the area median income when you buy that property. So let's say in our situation, for numbers' sake, it's $100,000 the area median income. So you can only make $80,000 to qualify to buy that property, which is verified and vetted and all that kind of stuff. And then on the backside, you can only sell to an individual, family, whoever, that makes 80% of the area median income for 99 years generally.
Yep.
So your upside potential for that house, which is a huge wealth generator for people, real estate, is limited to increases of income. So if incomes aren't increasing, and they're going to be disproportional. Here's some quick math that's interesting to consider, Connor.
Okay.
You talked to, I think, was it you? No, maybe it was Caleb. We had a meeting yesterday with some clients, and Caleb had a great conversation. Let's say area median income's at $100,000, and people are trying to increase that annually by 3%. Like that's kind of the goal, is increase that by 3%, increase that by 3%. So year 1, 100,000, year 2, 103,000, year 4, 106,500, whatever that math equates to. So it increases at a much slower rate. And so the person that you can sell it to only increases by that much, in proportion. Comparatively to historically in Fort Collins on an annual basis. Now, maybe this slows down, maybe this teeters off, but on an annual basis, historically since the 1970s, Fort Collins has appreciated their home values by 5%.
Correct.
5% on $500,000 is $25,000. So you're talking your house value, okay, Connor, is only going up by $3,000 if you're deed restricted to income, 80%, versus the potential of that $500,000 house increasing by $25,000.
Yep.
It makes sense to me, but also okay, maybe we transition from it to deed restricted to how do we get people in the door and then allow for the upside potential. But I would be interested to hear experts' opinions on what I just said.
It's a double-edged sword. They want to keep things affordable, but I know other people want to use that just like we all use our houses for the equity side of stuff. And so yeah, I would be very curious to see what other people who actually have spent more time in it and actually see what they feel about it and what they've seen nationally on that side. Because I've heard horror stories from other states, on the news every once in a while. And so it'd be interesting to know how it would feasibly work in the Fort Collins area, and truly someone who's even gone through it and hearing what they had to deal with when it came to trying to resell the home at that point. Yeah,
it's there's a project called Bird Whistle over by Kechter and Lady Moon over by Fossil Ridge High School, and there's a fair amount of houses that are still for sale, and they've been done for a while. So it's you do restrict, and it's a little bit difficult. Here are some things that Fort Collins working on that they were completed, ongoing, continuous, and in process. I just think, remove barriers for ADUs, extend the city's affordability term. So that's what I'm talking about with the deed restricted to 99 years, I believe it is.
Yep.
So after 99 years, they can sell it to somebody who makes more than 80% of their income, but not for that time. Lots of different things that's going on right now that are in the works. And I also wanted to point out there's a lot of different parts of the community or in the city that is working towards. It's a very much center focused thing in Fort Collins right now, city of Fort Collins, I should say, which is housing affordability, affordable housing. Here's that project that I was talking about, 43%, low income housing tax credit. For this was 140 Oak Street, Oak 140. of how it was paid for. DDA supplied 22% of equity, not including their $2.3 million of land value. And then they have debt on it of 26%, and then a lot of different fees to help it build from there. 79 to 81. Here are some of the things that are happening. Fast track review development. They've already worked on that, become ADU supportive. Commercial corridors and centers land use code update. So that's land use code update phase 2. Realign impact fees. So can we address impact fees to make it more affordable to build? High density utility study. Explore options for indoor water conservation, financial incentives. So can we get, and this is one thing I think we could potentially do in the future, Connor, is the extent of how much water, maybe that one share of water for $63,000 that currently serves 4 units, maybe in the future between going more zero-scape, water sensitive uses, things of that nature, maybe we can get that one share of water to cover 5 units or 6 units versus 4 to decrease that water impact. And I think we'll get there when there's enough, opportunity. I think we'll get there. City of Fort Collins real estate inventory. They want to look at that, purchase more land bank, increase affordable housing investment by the Keep Colorado or City of Fort Collins Community Capital Improvement Project. There we go. Community Capital Improvement Project. That's a tax renewal. And explore revolving loan equity fund for potentially people to use, and then leverage the Urban Renewal Authority for development.
You going to go to the housing summit in April
for the City of Fort Collins?
Yep.
I wasn't planning on it, but that'd probably be something worthwhile going to. Are you going to go?
I was thinking so. Yeah, I was kind of watching that and wanting to see what they had to actually say on that, because rentals right now are just a serious thing on that side. I mean, we're a university city and stuff on that side. Loveland doesn't have nearly the impact that Fort Collins has on that side when it comes to rentals. And so I'm always just curious on how that works out, especially maybe with the ADU stuff coming in as well. I'm just kind of curious how they're going to kind of package this together to hopefully make it to where there is more affordable rentals here for individuals who are coming in from lower income places, Kansas, other places like that, where it's just like, gosh, you're losing a lot of money just coming out to Colorado, but you get the benefits. So is there a way to kind of offset those costs for individuals?
Totally. We just were meeting with a family from Indiana. Midwest families that are moving here, it's definitely more of a challenge comparatively to some other areas. They go, you could have bought our first house for $250,000. Now that same house would be about $500,000 here. I'm like, yeah, it's tough for sure. So
yep.
No, that'd be good to go. Speaking of ADUs, man, this is going to be an interesting one. There's already been at least 4 conceptual reviews that have gone through the City of Fort Collins. What this is the state passed Housing Bill like 1152 or something like that. 152, essentially requiring any municipality with over 1,000 people to allow for ADUs to be built on any lot that a single family house could be built on. So we have passed, as of February 15th, our ordinance that essentially allows for ADUs to accommodate this state bill so that we can have access to funding and things of that nature.
Yep.
One of the things that's interesting, we don't allow short-term rentals. So if somebody wants to build an ADU to do a short-term rental on their house, they cannot do that. Doesn't even matter if it's in a commercial district and they have a permit for their main primary house. So that's definitely something interesting. Here's our activity since it's gone live February 15th. It used to have 27 visits per week to their ADU website. Now they're getting 50 visits per week. So it's doubled their activity on people trying to seek out and find more information. In the last 10 years, I thought this was wild. Only 34 applications, conceptual review applications for ADUs. I was like, that seems low.
I think it's just it used to be such a challenge beforehand with all the rules and regulations they had on the ADUs. And obviously most of our neighborhoods being HOA regulated. I think it's starting to expand that horizon a little bit now that they're saying, hey, we're cutting back on these regulations on these ADUs to where it's becoming more feasible. I mean, downtown Fort Collins was really the only place I was seeing ADUs even going up. I mean, I got to tour a couple houses a couple weeks ago that had ADUs in the backyard. I know you have, we have a listing that also potentially could have an ADU put in the back at some point too as well. And so I just think that as it becomes more feasible, I definitely will see people are seeing that as an opportunity to bring maybe a little more equity, a little more space to their home. And as long as that process doesn't cost you, years of your time dealing with it and thousands of dollars going through permits, I think it would I'd be looking at that at some point.
Sure. Yeah, we'll get to that here shortly, actually, which is super interesting. Here's speaking about timeline. They're suggesting that it'll take about 1 year from start to construction, not the end of your construction, but start to construction. Oh, no. ADU under construction. So 12 months, including construction.
Yep.
Which isn't bad. 12 months is not bad. It seems like a long time, but the reality is from the day you say, I want to do this, to going and getting an architect, submitting your conceptual reviews, going through the reviews, all that kind of stuff, finding, a contractor, getting a contract signed, getting them to get supplies, materials, all that coordinated, weather has to cooperate. So 1 year is not too bad to build essentially a house.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to have the fact that you can go through that review process and then the permit process in that 6 month or within a 5 to 6 month time frame. I mean, that's phenomenal comparatively to what I've seen in the past. I mean, just even to get a basement permit done sometimes in some states I've lived in, it's taken long to try and get that stuff done. And individuals coming out, testing your plumbing, testing your electrical, going through that whole process, and then having to go review after review after review. The fact that they're simplifying this, I mean, just to think that it's only going to take a year versus 2 years, 3 years out of your time just to go through all the different development boards from fire and safety to water to all of that. I mean, it's kind of nice to have that streamlined.
Well, and it decreases the risk of increased costs, like we just discussed. I'm much more comfortable building an ADU on my house, knowing that it's only going to be about a year. And sure, maybe prices increase a little bit, depending on what year, obviously, tariffs, all that kind of stuff. But, regardless, I can estimate the cost a little bit better. And if I feel comfortable with that on the front side right now, hopefully I feel comfortable with it on the backside versus waiting 3 years and like, well, shit, I thought this was going to cost me $100,000. It cost me $250,000. So I'm not doing it, or I'm screwed.
No, and I think one of the major factors to me on that side, which I think we talked about a while back on that, is the fact that you don't have to go out there and have a group meeting with your neighbors to put an ADU unit in. I mean, I think that would become one of the biggest cruxes, saying, well, why would I start this process if my neighbor over here who might dislike me for any reason could tell me, no, you can't do that. And then all of a sudden your whole project's shot. And so I think having that as well, to where it's like, hey, streamline from you to the city, send out a couple emails or letters to your neighbors to let them know that you're building an ADU. I think that also brings a lot more of a safety to it as well, but knowing that there's not so many hands in the pot.
Well, look what I just highlighted, these two things. Three things. Basically, you still have to put the yellow sign in your yard saying, hey, there's a development under review, but no neighborhood meeting and not appealable. So it is essentially up to the City of Fort Collins Review Department, if your ADU makes sense or what rounds of changes you've got to go through. But to your point, your neighbor can't gum up your development. If you want to build it and you are within the guidelines and all that kind of stuff, it's happening. Yep.
No, and Fort Collins is for having more housing here. So you got a lot better chance than you did 10 years ago.
Here's so I thought this was kind of interesting. ADU supportive community options. Here are some what other communities have done to make ADUs helpful or supportive. Because I'll show you here shortly, the cost of building an ADU is probably going to be between on the low side, $125,000 to $150,000 to $200,000 plus easily. So fee waivers, affordability incentives. So if you keep your house, keep that rental unit affordable, you can get some potentially incentives. Pre-approved plans for construction of ADUs. We'll get to that here shortly, but I think that's really what's going to potentially take off, as well as manufactured ADUs offsite and then can be delivered. That will be super interesting. Let's see, a program-related ADU short-term rentals, got that. Incentives for creating accessible and visitable ADUs. So I'm guessing that's kind of like handicap accessible. Insisting property owners that ensuring pre-existing ADUs comply with local laws. Enable pathway. Oh, here's interesting. Enable a pathway for the separate sale of an ADU. Did you know you could condominiumize your ADU and sell it?
Would you? So you'd still own the land, but you would actually sell off just the building. Is that how I'm listening to you on that side?
The ADU would own the airspace, but not the land, and it would be a condo technically.
That's different. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it was funny because Kelly Olson was like, "Did I miss this? Like, was this new?" And he goes, and like the planning developer goes, "No, this has always been a part of the city of Fort Collins. It's just that it's not very heavily used." So I think it's kind of a nothing burger, but you could technically condominiumize your ADU and sell it off.
That's pretty cool.
Kind of interesting, huh? Okay, let's see here. Encourage construction of factory-built ADUs. So that's kind of, we'll see if that takes place. Okay, here is what the fees are for building an ADU. For building an ADU, just the fees are $25,000.
Yep.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, no, I was going to say you have a lot of different groups that are going to be touching this project and stuff. So everybody's got to have their little piece.
You go through them and they make sense. And this is for an ADU that was going to cost $125,000. So on the backside, and this was a detached ADU on an existing structure. So good for what's it called? Wedby. We say, hey,
yep,
you probably estimate about $125,000 versus $200,000 to build this thing.
That's exactly right.
Electricity capacity charge, bringing electricity there, permit fees, city sales use tax. All these are electrical type deals. Fire capital expenditure, general government capital expenditure. Parks, community and neighborhood parks are two big ones. So, parks in Fort Collins, 1,000 acres worth of parks in Fort Collins. I mean, people are paying for these, world-class amenities. Transportation capital expenditures, TCAP, can't remember what it's called, but anyways, so they just add up, man. I mean, the one thing that I don't think is going to happen most of the time is going to be needing a second water tap. Most of it will go off of the primary's water tap.
Yep, as long as you're not using a certain amount on the main home and on the landscaping and yard and stuff, at least from what I've read through the ADU stuff, you should be in plenty good shape to use your first tap.
Yeah. Here's in Eugene, Oregon, they have pre-approved ADU plans library. So like you could go in and you could just choose which type of ADU you wanted, and the architectural designs were already completed and done. So I think that's at minimum, an idea that they could do to get rocking and rolling. But that was it for city council work session. I mean, it was a lot, but it was great information about what's happening in Fort Collins, bike park, affordable housing, ADUs. Connor, what we got going on this week? What could people do if they're visiting the area, living in the area? What could they do this week to have some fun?
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So first things off is up at the ranch here in Loveland. They're going to actually be having a rodeo. It's the 75th annual Skyline Stampede, going from the April 4th to the 6th. You can go onto the ranch website to be able to do tickets there and be able to go out and check that out. It's always a good time. Also one of my favorite things to go out and do is go watch the Colorado Eagles play, which is also up at the ranch, which is going to be, they have one game on April 4th against San Jose and another game April 5th with San Jose as well. So if you have some time to be able to go out and check out our Avalanche feeder team that plays up in Loveland, it is a blast to go watch. there's always a fight or two that always occurs there. And so it's always, you know, a little bit of UFC and hockey all at the same time. Let's see. So we have the Timber Dance Spring Toy Show presented by Peterson Toyota. That's up at the ranch as well. So it's just a bunch of toys and collectibles where you can go in. I think it's about $15 to $20 to get a ticket to go in there, and you can go in, buy toys and look at old toys and collectibles that are going on. That's happening April 5th. And then if you are interested in roller derby, there is a roller derby event going on at the Thompson McKee 4-H Youth Community building up at the ranch as well. And that's going April 6th at 5 p.m. And so if you like roller derby or want to go check that out, that's also another good option.
Interesting. You must have been in a fighting mode when
I was looking stuff up and stuff. It just seemed like an interesting week.
Here we go. We also got First Friday Art Walk this Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. downtown Fort Collins. It's a self-guided tour. Happens on the first Friday of every month. So you can go have some drinks, cocktails, go look at art, different types of opportunities there. There's the Old Aggie putt-putt pub crawl thing that's happening. Have you been to Old Town Putt yet?
I have actually. I finally went there and actually used one of their simulators finally with a couple buddies.
Wait, Old Town Putt? No.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a different one.
You're thinking about South Broadway Country Club.
Yeah, my bad.
I've never been to Old Town Putt, but I do know the individual that opened up that operation. I think he's killing it. I think I know a lot of people who go there, and there's putt leagues and all this kind of stuff. I think he's crushing it because the Old Aggie Open is actually sponsored by New Belgium, which is pretty cool that he was able to get that taken care of. But I mean, that seems like a fun opportunity this April 5th, 12 to 4 p.m. A couple other things is technically city council. They're touring their local waste and recycling. If there's more than 3 city council members who are joining an event, they technically have to publicize it to the public. So that's the only reason why it's publicized. So if you want to go see what they're doing, you can. But that's kind of, I thought that was just more interesting that they had to publicize it because there's going to be more than 3 city council members. Last 2 things, one we've already talked about, but the Fort Collins Winter Farmers Market. Have you been to the Winter Farmers Market at the Foothills Mall?
Yep, I have on that side. We typically go at least every year. So
it's pretty nice, actually. It's kind of, I mean, for a mall that's dead, you know, at least there's some activity that's happening in there. Because I think that mall is sad. We went to Bad Daddy's Burgers on Friday, just Janae and I, or maybe it was Thursday. I mean, that place is just, I hope the McQuinnies start working on that sooner than later, but I don't think they're going to.
It's got a great location. I love that Center Park area too. If they start doing concerts down there, I wish they would just start doing some things to bring it back alive. But when you go inside the mall, it is really kind of sad. You got the pretzel place, you got your Dick's Sporting's good. It's just not that great, but I do like Bad Daddy's over there. Yeah, we do too. Great Caesar salad, apparently. And then again, if you're interested in the City of Fort Collins city elections, they are meeting tomorrow night. Let's see here, 6 to 7:30 p.m. You know, I am 0.0 interested in city council, but I would say, you know, we are grateful for the people who do volunteer their time. And that's a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of emotions too, you know, especially in the world that we live in today. So if that speaks to you and that's what you're interested in doing, like, you know, good luck to you, and appreciate your willingness to consider, you know, running for and being a part of City of Fort Collins. That is all we got, Connor. We're just under 60 minutes. Great. So I appreciate you joining me today. Hey, congratulations, Connor. Connor closed 2 deals today, and he closed like 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we're on 4 at this point. So 4 for March, which is a great month, you know, especially beginning of the year. So congratulations, great work. Totally showed your value on those deals. So anyone who has the opportunity to work with Connor is absolutely lucky, and we're lucky to have him. So congratulations, and we'll see you tomorrow at our team meeting. All right, man. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day, man. All right. You guys too. Take care. All right. Bye.